Motivated business owner, welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and today's bright spark is Andrew Spira, a serial entrepreneur, speaker, coach and self-confessed recovered drug addict. Now with a $10 million real estate portfolio, Andrew is the founder of a high-volume lending business to Australian SMEs, along with a reputation management company serving over 350 clients. His story is a compelling tale of transformation and redemption. Today, we'll be flicking the switch on how Andrew turned his life around and went on to make millions, how his past struggles shaped his success in real estate and other ventures, business building tips for the entrepreneur who's dealing with addiction, plus Andrew will take us inside his advocacy work in Vanuatu. Andrew, welcome to the Spotlight.
Good morning.
Morning. Now, how low did you get with your addiction and what was the turning point that led you to seek recovery?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess I hit probably the lowest of lows, considering I went from living in a $10 million house in Vaucluse to Darwin jail in the space of a few months. And boy, I tell you what, it was a huge wake-up call and very sobering moment when I finally came to fruition and I realized that my addictions had led me to being in a segregation cell in Holt's prison in Darwin, which I'd never been to Darwin prior to what happened.
What a way to start. I got to ask, mate, because everyone else who's listening is also wanting me to ask, but what is it like walking into a prison for the first time knowing you're not a visitor?
Well, Darwin jail, as you can imagine, it was an Indigenous jail, and it was very shocking. You know, it's the real frontier of the issues within Australia. And, you know, the first part, the segregation part I was in, which they call Sector 5, it was all Indigenous, all from a particular part of the Northern Territory called Port Keats. And not one person in that wing spoke English. So, as you can imagine, it was a bit of a culture shock. And I was extremely scared. I didn't know. I honestly felt like I could die at any moment if someone just has a problem with me. So, you know, what I did was, I went in. I was respectful. I was happy. I was upbeat, and I think the elders could see that. You know, I wasn't getting many calls. People weren't putting money in my property, and you know, I was more or less looked after because they kind of felt a bit bad for me. But, you know, I think that was because of my positive attitude and my respectfulness and listening and helping them helping Indigenous that can't speak English fill out forms in English. It was scary. It was very, very scary.
How long were you there for, Andrew?
I was there for 4 months.
And it sounds like a ridiculous question, but you tell me, was being in jail your lowest point? Or did your lowest point come before getting to jail?
And actually, you know, that's a really good question. Again, it actually came after jail.
Wow.
It was, you know, I was young. I was 24 when it happened. And you think everything's going to be the same. But when I got out, the loss of social status was just so horrendous. You know, people weren't taking my calls. Institutions didn't want to deal with me. People just didn't want to deal with me anymore. I went from getting 400 or 500 calls a day. I mean, like when I was at my home gym in Vaucluse, I had to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but at 6 a.m, because the phone would just start getting hammered. I went from blank radio. I went to blank radio silence. No calls, no texts.
Yeah.
No one wanted to deal with me. All sorts of issues with banking. All sorts of issues with my business at the time, and it was just it was a big wake-up call. It was rock bottom. That first month when I was on bail, because I spent 5 months on bail before they sort of pushed the case on, I ended up getting an 18-month bond.
Andrew, it's amazing that, I mean, we don't need to go back into your past life. Clearly, with addiction and whatever else was going on, you hit some lows. Physical lows, mental lows, all sorts of lows. You go to jail, you still haven't hit your low. You come out and your low is a result almost of ego, isn't it? Like almost of like, no one wants to know me. No one's calling me. I've been blacklisted from all the places I used to love to go to. That's when it really, really hit home.
Absolutely, yeah. That's when it hit home. I had months of every day dealing with a crisis situation. I had 3 months of it, and boy, oh boy, every day I said, if I ever get through this period, I am never gonna take another drug, drink, and I'm never gonna, I guess, do the wrong thing again. I made that promise to myself, and you know,
has that been hard to keep?
not really. Firstly, I guess I'm at the age now where, I've been through a lot. I left home when I was 15. I've grown out a lot of that stuff. A lot of people tend to mature between 25 and 30. Some people, 35. But I'm kind of maturing early, I guess. The experience was just so sobering. I just would never let that happen to me again. It was horrendous. I really can't tell you how bad it was.
Andrew, can you think specifically about the turning point? I'm a visual guy, so I see the decline as a line going down, and then there's going to be a hockey stick inflection of some sort, taking you back up north, heading up. Yeah. Was there a moment in time? Was there a day, a place, a person where something clicked in your mind, and you've never looked back?
Yeah, it was on the day when I was going to get sentenced, and obviously, courts have variations of discretion, and don't know. I thought maybe possibly I could have gone back into custody, and I still had a little bit of ego, and I flashed back to when my addiction restarted, and I remember I was with my ex-partner at the Grand Hyatt in a suite for her birthday, and I thought my addiction started at the highest of high, a $20,000 a night hotel room, and now it's ended here. And I just kept saying that to myself in my head. You started at the Hyatt, you've ended up here. And just kept going through my head that whole day. Mm-hmm. And that's when I sort of, that thought came into my head, and that's continually stayed in my head for even to today. I started at the Hyatt, and that's where I ended up. So I'm never taking any drugs or alcohol again.
A couple of nice bookends. The Hyatt never thought they'd be a bookend, but they are. Yeah, both ends.
Yeah. But it's that thought that comes into your head, which overpowers the urges or the temptations or the no, it's all right, you'll be okay. I guess that's a big turning point, being able to logically understand something.
You've come a long way, Andrew. What daily practices help maintain your sobriety and help you stay focused on really positive goals now?
Yeah, so I've unfortunately got that personality where I do things in extremes. So routine is huge for me. I go to bed at 8:30 p.m. Now I get up at 4:30 a.m. every day. First thing I do is I get up. I check my emails, I have a shower and a shave, I go to the gym, and then my work day commences. Now, you might have a normal, I'm not sure, you might have a normal work day, but I'm on point every week. I have the same meetings at the same times and the same allowances for meetings at the same times every week, and I'm organized to the minute every week. And that's what helps me, and that's how I operate.
I've heard that many times, having spoken to many successful entrepreneurs and business people, Andrew, that routine is absolutely critical. In fact, there's a book written, I'm looking at it on my bookshelf, called The 4 a.m. Club, which is all about that. I think it's like a 300-page book that basically says get up early and start work. But it could have been written in a page. But I also listened to an interview recently with Kid Rock, of all people. You might be too young to remember who he is, mate, but he's a rock star from the deep south of America, and a successful one. And he went, and this guy also hit some pretty low lows, and he went through in minutiae his routine that also started at about 3:30 in the morning, and by 8:30 he ticked a whole lot of boxes. So there's a lot to be said for that. Andrew, how do you feel when sharing your story with others struggling with addiction? There's a few entrepreneurs listening to this. What message do you want to convey to them?
Yeah, again, that's a really good question. It's hard because a lot of people, it's understanding the addiction and what's actually going on. And a lot of people I talk to, they don't understand how serious um, things can get if you don't snap out of it. And, you know, growing up around the eastern suburbs, I've seen some dramatic falls from grace due to addiction. And what I will say is it's just not worth it. It never ends well. No matter what. If you want to live that lifestyle of taking drugs daily and partying and working and burning the candle at both ends, I guarantee you it will end up badly for you. There's never been a positive outcome from living that lifestyle.
No.
So that's just something you've got to take into consideration when you're doing it. As a good friend to me always said, snap out of it and enjoy life, because life's short. You never know, like things can turn any day. So you just got to make the most of it.
In my experience, both personally and again with many people that I've interviewed, and one comes to mind immediately, is you've got to have someone in your court, backing you, whether it be a mentor or a coach or a family member. I recently interviewed the drummer from Powderfinger, Jono Coghill, and Jono led a wild life, as you can imagine. I mean, he's the drummer of one of Australia's great rock bands, and he was completely out of control until he met his wife. His wife, who he's still married to, and she turned everything around because she was everything he wasn't, and pulled him into line. Did you have someone in your life? Oh, clearly not in the early days, but someone who sort of told you to pull your head in?
Yeah, out of this period, it's been really telling, and it's my best mate and now business partner. Daniel, I was speaking to him prior to the incident happening a couple of years ago, and he was telling me to snap out of it, and the day I got out, he managed to find my number. He saw an article online because it was heavily in the media.
Good on him.
And he called me and he checked in. And from there, we struck up a really big friendship. And he's backed me all the way. And I was I was near going on Centrelink. That's how bad it was. Because I got down to $9,000 in savings at one point. He said, "Mate, just go for it. You'll make it. It's a good idea. Keep pushing forward." Giving me all pointers. He's 20 years older than me. Giving me pointers all around.
How fantastic.
Around life. And, he massively got me out of that hole. Massively got me out of that hole.
If you're all finding this chat with serial entrepreneur and recovering drug addict Andrew Spira illuminating, then you can access all episodes of the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight on your favourite podcast app. Andrew, have your past struggles shaped your approach to both business and personal growth these days? And if so, how?
Yeah, it's definitely made me, in terms of my business life, it's made me more resilient. It's made me more positive and proactive and energized and I guess hungry for more. And then in terms of my personal life, I guess I'm fortunate now that at a young age, I now know what I want. I know what I'm looking for in friendships. I know what I'm looking for in relationships. I can read the room very easily. I can read someone's motives very easily. So I guess that's what my past struggles have given me the ability to do. It's more or less enlightened me on humans, because I've seen, being all the places I've been now, I've seen the highs and lows of life, so I can really get a read on the room very quickly.
You're back in business. You're rebuilding yourself. Rebuilding. It's a journey, and you're not there yet, but you are back in business. And I imagine, like all business people, you've confronted with problems and issues and challenges. Can you think back now to the biggest problem you've had since getting out of prison, and just how little it was compared to everything else you've been through?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough question. There's been an array of problems.
But I guess underlying that question, and you tell me, is that every problem you encounter now is pretty small. Pre jail time, you might not have coped. But now that you've coped with some really big stuff,
I see. Yeah, absolutely.
everything's easy.
Yeah, everything is easy as long as it's not in Darwin jail. That's what I always say to myself. Yeah, as long as I'm not in that place, it's okay.
Yeah. What does it mean? You talk about when you got out of jail, no one wanted to know you. You were blacklisted. The phone wasn't ringing. Do you feel still that you are living a slightly double life in that you're still trying to shed your skin from the past and trying to be the new Andrew that you know is possible?
I think now, like today, us talking now, I've reinvented myself. I'm a new person. I think I started to become a new person when it happened. And I think today, right now, I am a new person. I'm not sure if it's age or I'm not sure if it's the experience or if it's a mix of everything, but I've really matured. I feel that I've matured. Obviously, I've got more maturing to do, but I've grown out and dealt with a lot of issues that were haunting me from my teenage and childhood years.
What are some of the things that you just put aside, Andrew? Obviously, the obvious stuff, drugs and alcohol and associating with the wrong people. But in terms of the way you approach business these days, is it a very different Andrew to the one we would have met 5 years ago?
It's still this. It's still the same Andrew. It's still the energized, 100 calls before lunchtime, 500 emails every day, 1,000 messages every day. But I am a lot more. A lot better at delegating, and I'm a lot better at trusting people these days. That's a big thing. I used to trust no one. Now I'm a lot more trusting and a lot better at delegating, and I think that's going to enable me to not only scale my business but also live a much more fulfilling life. Through this experience, you know what I learned? I learned that there are good people out there, and you've just got to put in the work to finding people. It's not everyone's bad, and not everyone has a bad motive. There are some really good people in the world.
What a great thing to recognise. Just digging a bit deeper on delegate and trust. That smells of control freak to me. I know because I've been one, but how do you break? How did you break that? Was it just like, hey man, I've got to change my ways. I got to start passing tasks off to others. I've got to start trusting others. I mean, that's easy to say. How though?
Someone said to me, he said, it was someone I've worked with for a number of years. He said, Andrew, I was stressing about giving a password to something. He said, what's the worst that can happen? And I'm sporadic. I'm not giving him the password. I'm not giving him the password. He goes, Andrew, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then I thought about it. And I go, all right, you're right. You know what? You're right. And every time I don't trust someone, I go, what's the worst thing that can happen? And bang, I delegate.
I don't know. I'm not about to give him a bank password. The worst thing that can happen if I gave it to you or anyone else is I could get cleaned out. So you've got to exercise some level of caution. But
there's some level of caution, but calculated.
Yeah, calculated. Because delegating alone. As a business owner, we just got to do it. It's very hard because when it's our business, we feel like, no, I've got to protect it. I've just finished Elon Musk's autobiography and I've read Jobs' autobiography and boy, well, not auto because they're written by Walter Isaacson, but talk about control freaks. And the whole reason they just couldn't let go is because they were so protective of their ideas that they wanted to change the world. But it also made them very, very difficult people to work with. What do you like to work with?
I'm fantastic to work with, I guess, because I'm married to my business. So, right. They always get all my long-term contractors. They always get paid on time. Everything's in order with my business affairs. It always has been. I've still got some areas to work on in my personal life, absolutely. But I feel like I've come a long way with that as well.
Where's the gap for you, Andrew, that we've all got stuff to work on. I mean, the minute we say we're perfect, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. But where's your gap? Where's your learning gap? Or
it's still in my personal life, fostering relationships because of what happened to me in my younger years. Building relationships with people outside of business or a monetary goal has been extremely difficult. Building good relationships with women, like actual authentic love is I guess, what we all strive for, and building good friendships with people. I've still got a long way to go there, and but I think I am progressing, which is good.
Well, you're certainly progressing. You're doing some advocacy, not an easy word to say that, advocacy work in Vanuatu. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, I went to the person who supported me through the period of bad events. Actually lives in Vanuatu. He's second generation there and owns a big professional services firm. I went over there and instantly I fell in love with the place. There was just something about it, the friendliness of people, and there's not many young people there, and not many go-getters there. Mainly people have moved there just to live an easier life, and I met the right people very quickly, and um, they need help there. They're short funded, and I've got involved in the women's netball there. I did some big donations there, which helped repair the stadium so they could play netball. I donated drills to a village so they could drill for water, and I plan on doing a lot more down the track. But I think just being there with a positive attitude, and I've committed to hiring 30 locals by the end of the year within my business to run a back office there. I think just being there and being proactive and being pro-business is really what Vanuatu needs. It's a fantastic country with fantastic people. It just needs a bit more of a vision. So, yeah.
You didn't think of getting involved in one of the groups up in Darwin by any chance, did you?
Yeah, I did, but it's difficult. I started helping people there, but the recidivism rate in Darwin is horrendous. So, you've got to put yourself in harm's way in order to help people there. And it's not that I'm not ready for that. It's just things are very hectic up there, like more than you can imagine. You see it on the ABC. It's very intense work.
100%. It must be great. That whole Vanuatu thing must be fantastic. A great way of sort of balancing the ledger.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Not even balancing the ledger. It's a great country with great people. And, I think in 10, 20 years, it's with the work that's going on there, not just with me, but with other people. I think you're going to see a big resurgence in that country in terms of everything, the GDP, healthcare, real estate values rising. I think there's good people coming into place there now.
What are your future plans, Andrew, for creating a support network for recovering addicts like yourself who maybe want to sort of have a crack at business or, just turn things around?
Yeah, so I've launched, daily I get people messaging me, asking for help or what to do. I won't go into specifics. Obviously, you can imagine I get all sorts of weird and wacky questions. And, I call people straight away. Check in, see how they're going. And I guess off the back of that, I launched Spira.me, which is more or less a mental health assistance and crisis situation assistance, and people that are stuck in that cycle of addiction, and just booking sessions with them and talking to them and just giving some guidance on what helps me. I guess the blessing and the curse that I have is that I can speak from experience. So, it's not easy, and a lot of people in the mental health industry don't understand how hard things can get, and I understand, and I think that's why people are reaching out to me, and I'm able to help so many people. And I don't have any major plans with it. It's I'm not charging for the services or talking to people. I just want to help as many people as I can, and let people know that I'm there for them if they need it.
Good on you, buddy. Well, and clearly what you've been through, it feels like you look back in your rear vision mirror and know that they weren't good times, and you are going to use those bad times to do good in the future. So, everything happens for a reason. As my wonderful meditation teacher once told me, everything's accurate. So you just got to go with it. And I think too, we've just got to give people a second chance. That's the bottom line. Anyone listening to this and, bloody drug addict, and he's caused a lot of pain to many people, and you may well have, but what do? throw people away and lock people up and throw away the key, or you go, no, they've done their time. Let's give them a second go, and you are making best use of that, from what I can gather.
Yeah, it's given me a second wind on everything, and yeah, and I think very valid point. Everyone deserves a second chance, and I'm fortunate. I didn't have the family support when I got out, obviously, or friends support, or besides my best mate. But a lot of people get out and they've never had a job before, they've never rented a property, and the system is just so unforgiving on them. And
Yeah.
I think there needs to be more to understand. People that have been in mental health institutions for periods of time, or been through addictions, or been into jail, and they're out on the street, and no one's willing to give them a go. That's contributing to them being stuck in that recidivism rate. So absolutely, everyone deserves a second chance, or a third chance, or a fourth chance. We're all human beings and we all make mistakes.
Couldn't agree more, Andrew. Andrew Spira, thank you so much for candidly taking us behind, the curtain of what's a pretty interesting story. I could have chatted for hours, mate. Maybe I'll have to get you back another time, because it's it's interesting, but it's actually a really important story. And you have the ability to, going forward, to change a lot of lives for the better. So good on you for having a crack, mate. How do people find you? Andrew Spira, Spira.me.
That's it.
That's the best place. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And to you, the motivated business owner, thank you for getting this far. If you feel a little brighter, a little lighter, thanks to this episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight, then you'll find more conversations with successful entrepreneurs just like Andrew over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com or on your favourite podcast app. Until next time, may you and your business shine.